live from the DadPad. I see a lot of streamers trash, get a glad bag. Anytime I'm loaded up, know they big mad. Can't you see we going live? I know you feel the vibe. Reporting to you live from the DadPad. I see a lot of streamers trash, get a glad bag. Anytime I'm loaded up, know they big mad. Can't you see we going live? I know you feel the vibe.
Hey guys, it's me again, Greg with DadPad Gaming, coming at you with another review, this time for the Tango Gameworks title, GhostWire Tokyo. Now, GhostWire Tokyo is available on PS5 and on Windows platforms, not yet coming to Xbox, which is weird considering this is a published game from Bethesda. But this was a game that was signed to an agreement for exclusivity before Microsoft and Xbox made the purchase of ZeniMax. Yet again, I want to give a special shout out to our friends over at Blurred Approved Gaming, as they were able to provide me with this copy of GhostWire Tokyo for the purpose of review. As always, let's start with a general opinion here. Is GhostWire Tokyo good? Yes. Will it be your game of the year? I don't know. But as always, we'll go over some details of the game to help you to make a better informed decision on whether or not this game is worth your $70. So, what is GhostWire Tokyo? I guess the best way to explain it is it's a bit of a first-person shooter, kind of a platformer game, open world game as well, but at heart it's really just an action-adventure game. Our main character, Akito Izuki, wakes up dead after what seems to be a car accident. I know that sounds crazy, but anyway, he gets possessed by this guy named KK who can do ethereal weaving, or Naruto ninjutsu, I guess. It's really kind of weird, but it's also really cool. Anyway, the bad guys end up occupying a large section of Tokyo and leaving it ridden with a mist. Within that mist, you will find the visitors, which are more or less different variations of Slender Man. KK is dead set on stopping the leader of the visitors, whose name is Hanaya. But of course, our boy Akito has different plans. He needs to get to the hospital to check on his sister because, of course, with all human beings left somewhere in a spiritual realm of some sort, there's nothing but a bunch of these visitor monsters running around. So he's got to go check on his sister and make sure she's safe. And this is pretty much where the game begins. With KK's power, Akito manages to make it to the hospital to save his sister, and for no other reason other than, well, plot, Hanaya decides to kidnap Akito's sister. Now, of course, because Akito and KK's goals are now aligned, it's time for these guys to flush out the visitors, get rid of Hanaya, and save Akito's little sister. As always, we'll go ahead and start out with the things that GhostWire Tokyo really nails, and a big part of that is aesthetic. When I tell you this game is dripping in style, I mean, it is dripping in style. The particle effects are cool, the ray tracing is effective, and the character design of the enemies as well as some of our main characters is pretty cool as well. It's a very apparent thing that they put lots of time and effort into the way that this game looks, from the environment to the battle mechanics and the battle animations. Like, it is a really pretty game, and I cannot take that away from it. Now, take this with a grain of salt because I am not a Japanese guy, but I think it nails the Japanese culture, and I could be wrong here. Again, I'm not Japanese. It's just really cool to run into yokais and other Japanese deities that you may be used to seeing in animes and other forms of media. And of course, I've got to double down because I've mentioned this earlier, but the battle animations are sick. Like, there's nothing cooler than wailing on some of the visitors with fire spells, water spells, wind spells, bows and arrows, and so much more. But honestly, that's kind of where it ends. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like the game, but once you get past how cool the animations and how pretty the game is, there's really not much more for you here. While you get a fair range of different spells and weapons you can use, honestly, there's really not much of an advantage over using fire spells over water spells or wind spells. It really just comes down to how many enemies are around, and that's it. The fire spell can explode into big explosions and knock out a bunch of close proximity enemies. The water spells kind of go out in waves and can slice a wide proximity of enemies, and the wind spell is just a quick rapid fire. And while there are lots of enemies in the game, they pretty much fall into two archetypes. You've got your slender men and women. Some of them have heads, some of them don't. None of them have faces. And then there are your flying enemies, and you can kill any enemy with any weapon so long as your aim is right. A lot of the side quests are tied into Japanese culture, which is really cool, but a lot of them just fall into stereotypical open world quests. You go, you talk to an NPC, the NPC wants you to go get something or kill something and report back. Sometimes there's a little story attached to it, but very seldom is it anything special. And honestly, though it didn't take entirely too long, I feel like this game took too long to start mixing up the spells. And it almost got so boring in the opening hours for me with just the wind spell that I really wasn't motivated to finish the game. And again, don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoyed GhostWire Tokyo, but at the same time, it gets stale. And it hurts me to say that because, honestly, this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. But, at the end of the day, it's my job to be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest, I really think that this is a game worth playing, definitely worth experiencing. However, for a lot of people, I'm going to recommend that you may not want to run to the store to drop $60 to $70. Maybe wait for a sale, unless you really know that Japanese culture and anime hand signs is your thing. What I can say is, this may not be a title that I'm excited to ever return to, but it has showed me a lot of cool things. So many cool things that I would be extremely interested in a sequel that kind of irons out some of those wrinkles and reiterates on the things that I actually loved about this title. If we're looking to put a score on GhostWire Tokyo, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. I want to thank you guys so much for stopping by to check out my review of GhostWire Tokyo. If you like more of what you've got here, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel here on Blurred Lines Podcast, where you can catch episodes of our podcast, clips, and more reviews right here on Blurred Lines Podcast. And also check us out at twitch.tv/blurredline with no S podcast. And again, it's twitch.tv/blurredline podcast. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and have a wonderful day.